In the name of the Creator, Sustainer, and Redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. Absolom Jones was born into slavery on November 6, 1746 in Delaware. His master was a planter and a merchant. As a child, Jones was put to work inside the master's house. This position gave him the ability to earn small tips, which he saved to buy books that taught basics of reading and writing. Absolom also was able to save enough money to buy a New Testament. It is reported that his copy of the New Testament was one of his most precious and cherished possessions. When Absolom Jones was 16 years old, his mother and 6 siblings were sold off to different plantations. Absolom was taken to Philadelphia with his new master, who had a store. Jones worked in the store and was able to further his education at night at a school run by the Quakers. In 1770, at the age of 20, Absolom Jones married a slave woman named Mary King. After the wedding, Jones continued to work and earn money to secure his wife's freedom. In 1784, he was able to buy his own freedom. By this time, Jones was a member of St. George's Methodist Episcopal Church. He functioned as a lay preacher for the black members of the church. He and his friends and colleague Richard Allen increased the membership of the black people in that church. The white members of the congregation were not so pleased at this increase. During a service on a Sunday in 1786, ushers tried to escort the black members from the main floor of the church up to the balcony. Jones and Allen and the black members walked out. A year later, Allen and Jones founded the Free African Society. Members of this organization met regularly and paid dues, which were used to benefit those in need. The society helped widows and orphans. It was crucial in caring for the sick and dying in Philadelphia when a yellow fever epidemic swept in 1793. The society also helped free blacks become accustomed to city life. Jones was an advocate for social justice and believed that religion and social action were woven together. Richard Allen and Absolom Jones founded the African Church in 1791 as an outgrowth of the Free African Society. Eventually, Jones petitioned to have the church become a parish in the Episcopal Church. Absolom Jones and Richard Allen parted ways over this. Allen wanted to remain Methodist, while Jones did not want to remain because of the persecution he had experienced in the Methodist Church. St. Thomas African Episcopal Church was received into the Diocese of Pennsylvania on October 17, 1794. Despite the church's reception into the diocese, Jones's bishop, the Right Reverend William White, agreed to ordain Jones and permit the organization of St. Thomas only if the parish would agree not, and I'll say it again, not send any clergy or deputies to the annual diocesan convention. This deprived black Episcopalians of any representation or voice in church governance. This inconsistency of allowing African Americans to form their own parishes, coupled with a hesitancy to allow these congregations to participate fully in the life of the church, characterized the duality of race relations in the church for much of its history. In 1795, Absolom Jones was ordained a deacon in the Episcopal Church, and then was ordained 9 years later as a priest. My own social activism really started a couple years ago and is rooted in my understanding of Jesus as liberator. Since the death of Trayvon Martin, I've become more and more aware that the people whose names and faces I'm seeing on television, who have been subjected to violence at the hands of police or other white citizens, are people who look like me. Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, Eric Garner in New York City, Walter Scott in North Charleston, South Carolina, Freddie Gray in Baltimore, and Tamir Rice, 12 years old, armed with a toy gun in Cleveland, Ohio, and Sandra Bland in Waller County, Texas. For the first time in my life, I felt like I needed to do something drastic, to speak out, to stop pretending that the horror of what I was seeing on television didn't touch my life. Before, the things in the news seemed so distant. But this police brutality and murder hurts my heart in a way I have never known before. My people, Black people, people who look like me, continue to be targeted and killed. In December of 2014, my wife Marie told me that there was going to be a Black Lives Matter march in New York, and that Union Theological Seminary was gathering people for worship before it. I realized that I needed to be at this march. I needed to be a part of this. When we arrived at the chapel at Union for worship, we were given forms to fill out and a button that had Union printed on it in big letters. The button was so we could easily be recognized if we needed help, or if we got separated. The forms asked for our names, known allergies, contact persons, and if we had any physical limitations. On the bottom of the form was a phone number of the person who would have all our information. We were then instructed to write the phone number on the inside of our arm in permanent marker. All these measures were taken in case we got arrested. After worship, we were instructed on how to conduct ourselves in case we were arrested. I'm not going to lie, I began to get frightened. Marie and I looked at each other and sighed. And I thought to myself, this is getting real. I kept reminding myself that people during the civil rights movement did more dangerous protesting than I was about to do. I picked up a sign from the back of the chapel to carry while we marched. When it was time to leave, everyone started chanting, "This is what theology looks like," over and over again as we walked to the subway station. On our way to the march, we sang protest songs. Many of the people in the subway moved away, stared at us, or just got off the train. We just kept singing. I felt such a connection to all the people from Union, even though we didn't know each other. We all knew that God was on the move with us as we united to protest for justice. When our group met up with the other marchers on the route, I could see all the helicopters, police, and media. I held up my sign with pride that read, "I can't breathe." This was the plea that Eric Garner repeated 11 times as police had him in a chokehold. As I cried when I first chanted, "I can't breathe," 1. "I can't breathe," 2. "I can't breathe," 3. "I can't breathe," 4. "I can't breathe," 5. "I can't breathe," 6. "I can't breathe," 7. "I can't breathe," 8. "I can't breathe," 9. "I can't breathe," 10. "I can't breathe," 11. I walked that day like I had never walked before. I walked with a passion and a purpose. I walked with my white wife in a march to show the world that Black lives mattered, that my life matters. This is what theology looks like. It looks like faith and activism coming together to protest and disrupt injustice. I am proud that in the tradition of Absolom Jones, my faith calls me to act for justice. What is also true is that I have been in the Episcopal Church for my entire life, and like Absolom Jones, am part of an institution that doesn't quite know what to do with me. I've been told that I wouldn't ever be able to write a sermon, that I could never be obedient to a bishop, that I was too loud, that I was an angry Black, and that I didn't know how to follow rules. People fear what they don't understand. Not being part of the dominant culture has made it difficult for me to be known or understood by many people, the people around me, people in the Episcopal Church. Ironically, part of my identity has been cultivated in the Episcopal Church. From the time I can remember, I went to St. John's Episcopal Church in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Every Sunday, I sat in the pews and read along in the Book of Common Prayer when I was 6 years old, rather than go to Sunday school. I served as an acolyte and a minister of communion. And when I go back to that church even now, I am greeted as a long-lost child. I am steeped in this Anglican tradition, and it flows through my veins. And so, even though the larger institution sometimes has no idea what to do with me, I stay. I stay because I have to. I stay because it's in my DNA. I stay because the church needs to hear my voice and see the beauty in my difference, in my Blackness.